Dear church, let's talk about song leading. Hello and welcome to the Dear Church podcast. I'm your host, Chris McCurley. I'm excited about our guest today. I say that every week, but I'm really excited this week because I've got 4 of our 6 song leaders on Sunday morning at Oldham Lane here with me, and I thank you guys so much for joining me. We've got 2 others that couldn't be here. One of our guys, who is actually the deacon over our song leading and one of our song leaders on Sunday morning, he is an attorney, and he had this whole trial he had to be involved in. I guess we can let him off the hook for that.
I guess so.
And then Clinton Purdue is not with us, who is one of our song leaders as well. I wanted all of you guys on here. I got most of you, so I guess that's a good thing. But I wanted to talk about song leading. I wanted our viewers and listeners to tune in and hopefully get some idea about what we do at the Oldham Lane Church of Christ in order to set the tone for worship, kind of what you guys do individually, what our goal is as a group. And I just think that, that's something that's hopefully interesting to other folks at different churches. And I know it's interesting to me, kind of the preparation y'all go through and kind of the things that y'all do. So thanks for joining us. We're going to go around and just introduce ourselves real quick. So,
okay.
Another attorney.
Yes, yeah. David Sprott.
Jim Drachenberg.
Wait, tell what you do. So David, I gave it away. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim?
I'm a physics professor. Don't hold it against me.
I'm Don Connell. I work at Creative Graphic Solutions.
Great.
And I'm Luke Burnham. I'm the youth minister at Oldham Lane Church of Christ. And before this, I was a choir director.
Yeah. Okay. And then Kevin Wilhelm is our deacon over the song leading and worship, and he is an attorney here in town. And then we have Clinton Purdue, who was teaching school and
now he works over at Hendrick Hospital.
Trained opera singer.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So we got a lot of talent. I think we're very blessed at Oldham Lane that we have the guys that we have. And it's not just our Sunday morning guys. We've got a few other guys that lead on Sunday nights and on Wednesday nights. But you guys exclusively Sunday morning, it's our 6 guys that we use. And we have 6 because we have the talent to do so, but also because we have 2 services. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about how we kind of maneuver those things and what went into the thought process behind y'all leading both services. But I want to start with kind of tell me, I believe, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I believe that the song leader is probably as integral as anyone in the worship service. And the reason I believe that is I believe that he is setting a tone, and he is setting a tone for worship. And a lot of times when we talk about singing, it's kind of, well, we don't talk about it enough. And when we do talk about it, it's almost kind of, it's just random. You pick out some songs, the songs that you like and that you prefer, and you just roll with it, right? Maybe even right before you get up there to lead. But there's a whole lot more that goes on behind the scenes if we want to do it well, if we want to put our best foot forward, and if we want to set a tone. So talk a little bit about, any one of you that wants to jump in, kind of what goes into your process of selecting songs. What is it you're trying to accomplish with the song service that you're putting together?
Go ahead, Don.
I think one of the good things that we do is we get your sermon.
Yes.
And we get the notes and the scriptures. And using paperless hymnal, we're able to use your scriptures and cross-reference with the songs that are on paperless hymnal through the index there. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Another part of it is contacting you, at least I do, to see what you want. Mm-hmm. And, singing songs the congregation likes is a big deal.
I'm glad you said that, because I feel like a lot of times it's like when I used to watch American Idol and my wife watches The Voice. And sometimes I'll watch and I'll go, wow, you have a great voice. You picked a horrible song. like you could have showcased your voice so much better than that. And, we talk about that. We've all talked about that in the sermon. Like that invitation song, man, that needs to be an exclamation point on the sermon. I like the song before the lesson, as y'all know, to be upbeat and something that's inspiring and encouraging, that kind of thing. So I do appreciate all of y'all text me and say, hey, any songs you want for Sunday? And maybe I've had one in mind all week when I've been thinking about the sermon. So I do appreciate that. One thing you said is you get my sermon, and I wanted our our listeners and viewers to know that we have a drive. So it's in Google. So it's a slides drive. So all of the Sunday morning, Sunday evening as well, all of the presentation is there. So announcements that run before, all the songs, the sermon, the communion scripture, all of it is there packaged for that Sunday in the drive, and it's put in there in advance. So you guys can go in there and access that drive and find my sermons and Sunday morning, Sunday night, and look through it and decide what you want to do, that kind of thing. So that's what you were getting at there. I wanted our viewers and listeners to know that. Talk a little bit more about what goes into y'all's planning.
Well, I would reiterate what Don said, that it's a unique privilege to work with a preacher who has his sermons ready so far in advance.
Yep. That's why I had you on.
So thank you for that.
High five.
But then also, in addition to trying to make the songs have a unified message as much as you can, or for them to be appropriate for where in the worship they are, I like for them to sort of have their own dynamic, their own sort of flow of mood. We'll start out with something. I like to start out with something that everyone's familiar with, that will, sort of get them engaged in worship.
Right.
But then the worship moves towards the Lord's Supper. And so we go from more upbeat and fast, at least I do, usually, to something that's slower and more prayerful.
Yeah.
And then we pick the tempo back up again as we get to your sermon and the invitation. And then, so musically, that's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm picking songs. And then I always want the last song to be something that we know really well, that's going to just send us off, with a lot of encouragement.
Yeah, and we've talked about that a lot in our sessions where we've gotten together as song leaders and as the ministers and talked about what it is we're trying to accomplish. And that's one thing we've all agreed on that we want to do is, send you out with something like a charge almost. And, Don, we've talked about this because out of all of us, you've been there with me from day one. You've been at Oldham Lane long before I got there. And in the 13 years I've been there, you've always been one of the song leaders. And we talk about that quite a bit. Is you'll ask me sometimes, what's the theme? How do and you and I've had that discussion where I said, ultimately though, I want good songs, right? So if you can't find a theme, like if I'm preaching on elders, because we're doing an elder selection, it's kind of hard to find some songs on that, but ultimately I just want good songs, right? And so you guys do a really good job of that and setting a tone by picking good songs.
I think there's more to it than just having good songs, though.
Yeah,
because you've got to have the songs that are going to flow with the service, like David was saying.
Absolutely.
And,
which I am not. I mean, our folks need to know I'm not a musical person. You don't want me leading, you don't even want me singing. So it's good that I have you guys to rely on, because I know that there are times when I'll say, hey, do we know this song? I think I do, but can you lead that? And you guys always come through, but I'm not the song guy. So I rely on you guys heavily. Jim, what do you do to kind of prepare? What's your thought? Is it the same thing?
It's very similar. And I have a few hymnals in my collection that have good indexes and subject indexes, and I'll try to look through that. And it's kind of one of my go-tos, and I really appreciate the spreadsheets that I think Luke put together for us that have kind of a listing of those things and some suggestions, and so it's a lot of contacting you and then thinking through that, and then when I have a list together to practice it actually, and kind of just verify that this does what I think it might do as I'm leading it.
That's a good point. Do y'all practice? I know Luke does. Because I have the pleasure of working with Luke day in and day out as our youth and family minister, and I know there are many times that I hear you in there practicing. Mm-hmm. Do you guys practice? I mean, you know most of these songs, so but you do
usually on the Saturday before or a little bit earlier in the weekend. If I can just sing through everything, sometimes it's not up to speed. Oh, victory in Jesus, I love you. I'll go a little bit quicker, but just to go over the slides, go over the words, make sure I know which verses are being led, and just make sure that's just good practice to make sure you're prepared for Sunday morning. The few times I've said, "Oh, I don't need it," that's usually when I mess up or the slides are just off by a little bit, and I said, "Ooh, okay, thank you for the reminder. I need to make sure I'm practicing beforehand."
Yeah, because some of these songs, Well, I've noticed two things. I've noticed that some of the songs, I didn't grow up in the church, but in the 20 plus years I've been in the church, I've noticed that some of the songs, they've changed the titles. So, that I know the song real well, but I don't know about that title. So they've changed the title. But I also notice that like there's some of these songs, there's like 3 ways to sing them now. So I'm sure that that's something that I notice when y'all are communicating back and forth, because I'm in on all those emails. Hey, we're going to do this version of that song. So I guess that can be difficult too. Got to make sure that you practice that and everything.
Yeah, it's knowing what version that you as the song leader can lead well, and knowing what version the church knows, because maybe they've had a long-time song leader that led it a certain way, and so you want to make sure that you're not being a distraction to the body as they're trying to worship and it suddenly becomes a solo. You don't want that.
Right.
The purpose of us is we are helping the church worship. We are helping them not have to think about words, not have to think about where the notes are going, but they can just open up their hearts and sing to God.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of y'all told me one time, I don't remember which one it was, and I liken it to when I was coaching or even playing sports, is that a good referee, you don't even know they're out there, right? I mean, a good referee just you don't even know they're out there. And one of y'all told me that one time, is that a good song leader kind of is able to lead and then just kind of get out of the way. And I don't remember which one of y'all said that, but that's a good way to put it. I know that Don uses the handheld mic, and there are times when you kind of pull away and let the congregation take over. I think that's good. Talk a little bit about, Jim mentioned that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
So you put that together. So that might be something that some of these congregations that are tuning in might want to.
Yeah, when I was in college, I was doing a lot of song leading. I helped out at the 9 o'clock college service that was happening, and so that was mainly college students that were coming in from out of town, didn't have a chance to take communion, or just wanted to worship after getting most of their stuff done on Sundays. So that was a certain kind of song that I was, preparing and planning for. And I was also the regular song leader 3 weeks out of the month for a church in town, and I was starting to lose track of all the different songs I was leading, and I was worried that I was going to lead the same one every single week. And something that I'm a big proponent of is diversity. Just in the book of Psalms alone, there's 150 songs in there, and some of those are pages long with lots of stuff in there. So I didn't want to only get stuck singing the same 20 or 30 songs. So I came up with a spreadsheet where I've got the song title, I've got who has led it, how recently they've read it, and just kind of as a rule of thumb for me, this is not everybody, but I try to, because we have so many songs at our disposal, I try to not lead a song if it's been led in the last 2 or 3 months. Okay. And that seems like a long time, but that's only 12-ish worship services, and so that gives us plenty of time to spread them out and sing through the different songs that are available. Yeah. And I just find I get more feedback from the congregation thanking me for the songs I've picked when it's songs they haven't really thought of for a while, but they know them, and so when they get a chance to sing them, they're just like, "Thank you. That was a good one that I haven't sung recently." So.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I think that's neat. So here's a question I have for me personally. You guys can answer this. All of you are good singers individually. All of you are technically good singers, like music, like you can read music. Don, you sang with a cappella for a time. You guys are obviously good singers. What's the difference in being a singer and leading singing? What's the major difference? Like when you lead in front of a congregation, what's the major difference? I stumped you. Nobody knows.
Well, I think that one of the things would be in the title that you just gave, leading. Yeah. So you can sing, but can you lead a group?
There's a difference, right?
And there is a difference. Yeah. And we all kind of have our own different style of the way we lead. Right. But you have to do that nonetheless. Sort of set the tempo for the song, and maybe even if the song has a place in it where you get quiet, sort of be the example of that. I don't know if just any singer could do that, but it is something that's different from just sitting out in a group and singing.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think singing in a group, you're really focusing on blend more than you are on, stepping out, unless you're singing the lead.
Yeah.
But more leading worship or leading singing, it's more about leading the congregation. So we need to be heard, to an extent.
Yeah.
But that's one reason that I use the handheld, so I can back out of it.
Or take over when you need
or
to.
take over when I need to.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of difference between being a song leader or a song director.
Oh, okay. Yeah, talk about that.
I mean, we're leading.
You said your biggest fear before we came on was that I'm going to ask you to expound on something.
And I knew
Here I am. I'm asking you to.
Jim, why don't you take that one? No, I mean, directing the song, you're directing the notes, you're directing the dynamics, more so in leading worship. I mean, we're taking people to the throne of God.
Yeah.
So it's
a big
more
responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, and to kind of build on, what was said earlier about the singer versus the song leader or the worship leader, I feel like you can be a good singer, and part of being a good singer is you have to know what you sound like. You have to know your ability. There's a lot of inward focus on you. As far as a song leader, back to taking people to the throne of God, if something goes wrong, or maybe a newer song is led, or there's some sort of mistake, you have to be able to gauge what's going on in the congregation. Just because you sang one song really well, if the congregation, doesn't know the second verse, or they're having trouble with something, you have to say, okay, well, we've got to work on that, or I've got to make sure that I'm teaching this to people. It's not just about being a good singer. It's looking at what are the needs of the congregation, and it kind of ties to the being a director. I directed choirs for 8 years. Well, I'm the center of attention. They've got to watch me so I can show them how to do that. Well, once again, worship leading, you're stepping back, you're letting the church worship, you're leading them and helping them if there's, a tricky verse coming up or something like that. But it's not everybody look at me. It's everybody look at God. And how are we doing that? Yeah.
Well, and I know energy is kind of a big thing too. You can have a dead song service. Jim's a big energy guy. I love it. Yeah. So you need to tune into our live stream and watch Jim as he leads, because it's awesome. He's a big energy guy. How important is it to feel and to be passionate about what you're singing? Because I know when I'm preaching, the sermons that I feel like go best are the ones where I feel like that I kind of got away from the script more. I was able to pour my heart into it and connect with the audience better. I always use the word audience. I'm not sure that's the best use of that. I'm not sure that's what we need to be referring to, the worshipers. So when you connect, I mean, I think that's when you make the most impact. Is that something, or are you guys just trying to get through it because it's nerve-wracking?
I think for me, this is one part where practicing helps me, because if I go through it before, I can see where, when I slow myself down at this point and I kind of, I get a little bit quieter. The mood is more contemplative. I'm thinking more about the words here in this, or a phrase might catch me, where I really think about that. And so if I kind of know where those points are, then when we go into the service together, it helps me draw people into that moment.
Yeah.
And so it is a little bit of a tricky thing because people are watching you, but you are trying to deflect that toward God. And so if I've gone through it beforehand, then it's a little bit easier for me to say, okay, now here's a moment where we can really direct and toward God, put the focus where it is, and anticipate that. So if I kind of know the effect that this phrase had on me, then I know going into that I can prepare for it, and maybe it's a little bit easier to draw them in with me into that. And there are times where, I can almost just, literally close my eyes there and just almost get transported, and we're there together, and it's
that's neat.
And so kind of a little preparation helps me, I think, make that connection a little bit, or anticipate where those connections are going to come.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I don't believe the Bible's boring, but I believe I can make it boring, And I think that there's some songs that are really great songs that we can destroy just by having no energy and things, which you guys don't have a problem with. But I just wondered, what's the thought process behind that when you're getting up there? Like, are you? Because I know when I'm preaching a sermon, I do manuscript sermons because I want to be able to remember it later. I want to be able to pull it out and say, oh yeah, I remember when I said that. But I also, as I'm writing the sermon, I'm thinking about okay, well, this is a point that I really want to hit. Here's a point where I maybe want to use some emphatic language, or maybe even be, more gesturing, things like that. Is that going through your mind when you're planning and preparing?
I know with me, there's a lot of things I've done just on the fly.
Sure.
Not that we're not thinking about the music, but we're like, this might work really well here. And even leading for the first service, not that it's a practice service, but to some degree, you're using that as, how can I make this better for the second service?
I agree. I always, I tell people that first service, I'm like a comedian. I'm trying out the material, right. And then, seeing where I get the laughs and stuff. And then the second service, no, but I hear what you're saying. The second service, obviously, I would think would be a little bit better. In our congregation, the first service has about 200, 220. The second service has, that's the biggest service, 450 to 500. So the singing's probably going to be a little better in the second one, because of the 200 to 220 in the first service, they're all spread out in that big auditorium. And so I'm sure that's a challenge for y'all to try to get people. I mean, plus it's at 8:15. People are still kind of waking up.
Definite energy.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. So we do the two services. And when we started that, I guess it's been how long? Almost a year ago, I guess.
Yeah.
When we started that, Kevin, who is the deacon over this, that he got with me and he said, how do you want to do this? Do we want to see about having somebody lead the first service and another guy lead the second, or whatever? And I said, well, I don't care. I think you guys need to figure that out and just tell me what you decided. But I said, I don't want the first service to be kind of the step son or daughter to the second service, because the second one's going to be well attended. There's going to have more people in it. I don't want that first service to just kind of be, whatever. And I think that's how you kill it if it's not up to par. We wanted to make identical services as much as possible. So talk a little bit about that, because I know what y'all's decision is we're going to lead both services. So every time y'all lead on a Sunday, y'all lead both services and you sing the same exact songs every service.
Kevin asked us all about that and what was our view on whether we were willing to do that. And my response was, yes, I am willing to do that. I'd had some experience at the church where I grew up doing that. Okay. We had two services, and we didn't have the same song leader. Yeah. But I was really eager to have opportunities to lead singing, so I volunteered to do early service. Okay. Whenever the preacher would let me, and our preacher was the one who kind of coordinated all that.
Right.
And so then it got to the point where he said, well, as a reward for being willing to get up here so early for early service, you can do both services if you want.
You earned your keep.
And then you can do the second service, which is a lot of fun. Like you said, it's way different, because of the numbers that are there. And so then it kind of got to be, well, this teenage kid is willing to lead two services. What's wrong with the rest of you guys? Why won't you lead two services?
So everybody hated you after that.
So then we all started doing it. But I really like it because, it does give you a chance to warm up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry for you early service people, that it's a bit of a warm up, but that's the truth of it. And if there are any early service people listening, I would encourage them to sit up closer to the front. Yeah. If we could gather in a little bit, then we could probably get some energy going.
I told the elders we could do like, football stadiums are doing now, where they cover certain seats so they don't look empty. We could cover all the back seats so everybody has to sit up
Maybe
front.
get some cardboard cutouts and put them in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Some banners over them and put some advertisements on them.
Exactly. Yeah. Do some advertising, the double thing there. Also, when we do the two services, that first service, are you approaching it differently? Is your mindset just different going in? Like, are you're going in saying, you know what, I may have to sing some solos here, but I'm ready. I mean, I would think that being a leader is key in that first service because, like I said, it's, you're lower in number, you're spread out. It's not that the first service, I'm kind of painting it like it's really bad. It's not. It's great, and we have a lot of great singers there too. But I can imagine it's a little different, especially if you're singing a newer song.
Yeah, you're your end goal, as a song leader, well, maybe I should say my end goal is to be able to start the song, kind of keep the church singing along where we're getting slowed down or anything like that, but letting the church do that. But in the meantime, maybe they're not confident on a song, maybe there's not as many singers or they're spread out. You need to be able to have that confidence and have that security in the song to keep going through there. And there's just some people that I've talked to that just say, we like singing. Sometimes I'll drop out a little bit and they say, hey, thank you for letting us worship, but I feel better as a singer when you're still singing strong. And I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that just having that confidence of the song leader, that's why we have a song leader, is to help the congregation when they're needed. So I try to pick songs that'll work for both. And I say, I'm just going to make sure I know them, make sure I'm strong. And hopefully that'll give the singers the confidence to carry on through.
Yeah, that's good. One thing that I have had to set aside myself, my preferences on are some of the songs. I didn't grow up in the church, so some of these beloved hymns from many moons ago, I don't have a sentimental attachment to. And some of them I find, I just don't care, if we sing them ever again. I don't think the song book is like the Bible. I don't think it's Holy Spirit inspired kind of thing, that it's, infallible, inerrant, and all that kind of stuff. So, I think there's some songs in there that I don't think we should sing. Like there's an all-seeing eye watching you. I don't like that song. I don't think it presents God. I don't think it presents God in a correct biblical light. However, one thing that Don and I talk about a lot, and I think you've taught me on, is that I'm an outlier on some of that. Like maybe some of those songs that I don't necessarily prefer, a lot of our folks do. They have a sentimental attachment to that. And one thing I've also learned that we've talked about is it would be a shame if, in all of the learning of the new songs, we lost like How Great Thou Art or Paradise Valley, if we lost that, because those are beloved hymns. Forgive me for saying this, but we sing "Our God He Is Alive." I almost want to put my hand. That's the Church of Christ national anthem, right? We can't lose that song. But one thing that we do well at Oldham Lane, and I'm very pleased about, is we learn new songs, and we have a class. We learn them, and we don't just learn them; we turn right around and sing them. And sometimes on that first service, when we don't know the song, it's a solo, but we learn them and we sing them, because I think that's good, because we need a new song every now and then. Times change, preferences change. And while we're not preference driven, we do need to, consider that, what's old, we can still do, but we can also add new as well. As long as the songs are scriptural, as long as they're, encouraging, edifying, all those kind of things, and singable, right? I know sometimes folks will say, well, these new songs, they belittle them, they don't like them, but most of them come straight out of the Psalms. Many of the newer songs are straight out of the Psalms. And I think we need to be adding to our repertoire all the time. Talk a little bit about that, the new songs and the old songs. And, we have said at Oldham Lane, we're gonna sing a mixture. Every song service, we're going to have a mixture. Talk a little bit about all that.
Well, I know when I'm picking songs, we have the old classics, these older hymns that are, 50 plus years old. We've got kind of what I call the newer devotional songs, new-ish, songs that came around in the 80s and the 90s, sung a lot at college groups, not specifically written for a cappella singing. And then we've got a lot of these brand new songs, written after 2000, that we have been kind of introducing in these sing a new song class. And I try to kind of balance where if I'm going to do a lot of these brand new 2000 songs, I also want to hit it heavy with these older hymns. And in my experience, I get a lot of positive feedback from that. Like we said, I want all of our songs, old hymns and new songs, to be biblically based, scripturally fulfilling.
No doubt.
And I think just like the new songs have a habit of sometimes getting away from that, some of these old hymns, I kind of look at them and I'm just like, this is a feel-good song that mentioned Jesus a few times. I don't know how scriptural this is.
Yeah.
So, I just try to make sure there's that good balance. I try not to tend, let's do all old, let's do all new. By doing both, it gives everybody a chance to worship, and it gives everybody a chance to grow. That, you know, younger person who maybe doesn't like the old hymns, they get to grow by listening to the poetry, listening to those references, seeing how maybe the older members of the congregation react to that. And likewise, the older members that maybe have no idea where the song came from get to see some of the newer members that hear the song on the radio, and they get to connect with that deeper.
Yeah.
And so that's just the experience, you know, we're hoping for.
Well, and, you know, like with Don, I mean, you guys may be this way too, but I mean, you grew up the son of a song leader in a singing family, and those are the songs you learn, those are the songs you sing, right. And so you have a sentimental attachment to that I totally get, and so that kind of takes you back. It also touches you and things like that. And how many people in the audience are that way? I keep saying audience. How many worshipers are the same way? You know, right. So I don't think you can pass over that. You know, but at the same time, you know, you've got younger families coming in that you know, they like these newer songs. I know we recently purchased a bunch of newer songs through Praise and Harmony that we have been using in that new songs class. And you and I were at work one day, and I was like, hey, I heard a song on the radio the other day on Sirius XM by Chris Tomlin called I Will Rise. Is there an arrangement for that, an a cappella arrangement for that? And you looked it up, and sure enough, and we led it this Sunday, beautiful song, you know, and nothing unscriptural about it at all, just like the older hymns, you know, but, you know, it's just a matter of learning new and without dismissing the old, right? What do you guys say? Do y'all have preferences? What are kind of y'all's preferences with songs or types of songs and things like that? And how do you keep from defaulting to that?
I get a lot of positive feedback when I lead an older song that touches someone, you know, that it's a special song for whatever reason to them. And I like that because, you know, Scripture is very old, obviously. And so when we read Scripture, we're reading it over and over again. And so that drives that message home. And I think those songs can do that for people too. But we also have to remember that old song was new at one time.
Sure.
And I think it was Isaac Watts who wrote songs, 150 years ago? And he took a lot of flack for writing the songs, and a lot of churches wouldn't accept them. And we laugh about that now because those are considered old, stodgy, you know, high church songs now.
Yeah, and I think the song, whatever it is you're singing, it's not encouraging and uplifting and edifying, which is the purpose of singing, if we don't know what it means. And we did this a few years ago.
Night with Eben Pinion.
Yeah, you were going to lead Night with Eben Pinion. And I said, you know, I didn't grow up in the church. What does that mean? Because I don't understand any of the words. And so we had one of our radio guys with that radio voice, Charles Ellis, come up and during the communion focus explained the song, and then we got into the song. I thought that was so great because Not With Eben Pinion, a beautiful song, just don't know what it means. And I talked to you about it. I said, hey, let's have an explanation before, because I bet there's a lot of people that love singing the song because they sing it all their lives, but they don't know what it means. And that was really, and some of these newer songs the same way, like There's a Stirring, you know, after you sing that a couple of times, you realize, oh, that's what that's about, you know, and it really hits you hard. I think sometimes you guys do a good job of saying, you know, hey, this is a song about, let's sing, you know, and you launch into whatever it's about, and then let's sing this, you know, let's sing out as we, you know, praise God. And I think that's good too, to have a little narration every now and then to kind of let people know.
And in some ways, they're kind of present learning opportunities, and I love learning about those in the context of some of the hymns, have very powerful backgrounds to them, and so you know, sometimes that can help me, you know, with an older song, is to look into a little bit of why it was written, you know, who wrote it, what were they going through, and you can learn some profound things that change your perspective on a hymn, and maybe take one that seemed maybe, you know, old to you before, and it becomes new and alive because you understand better why it was written and what the words really are saying.
Yeah, what was behind it.
Right.
And you're doing that with your dad coming up, you know, so
we've got a series of lessons coming up on Wednesday nights in the spring, January through March.
Yeah, your dad, who is also a song leader for us, y'all are doing a class, kind of the story behind the songs. And so kind of giving that, like Jim just said, giving the background behind some of these hymns that we sing. And I think that's going to go a long way too. And I know you've been leading the new song class. All of you have been, but you've kind of spearheaded that, the new songs class that we just finished, and, you know, taking those songs and applying them to worship. That's been neat. Before we go, I'm going to put you on the spot. So I want each one of you to answer this question individually. We'll just go around. So somebody's tuning in and they're just kind of starting out in song leading and worship. What's the one thing? I mean, I know there's a lot of things. What's the one thing that you would tell them before they get up there and lead? What's the one thing they need to do or keep in mind?
I would say for these starting out song leaders, I would say prepare your songs in advance and go in front of a mirror and just practice leading those songs. Because you might feel confident and then you get in front of the mirror and you look like this. And that can be a distraction for a lot of people that are trying to, worship with you. So not only practicing so you feel confident, but doing it in front of a mirror so you know what everybody else has to look at. That's right. Gonna, just be edifying, hopefully, for the whole worship service.
Absolutely. Good. Don, you look like you're going to say something.
I'm still thinking.
You're going to go what he said.
I was thinking more along the lines of just encouraging them. If you're a new song, I can remember the first time I led a song, and I was a little boy at that point, and I was terrified. I wanted to do it, but I was extremely nervous and could hardly keep the beat with my hand.
Kind of like y'all were before you came on the podcast today, right?
Right. So I think I would just tell them, what you're doing is important, and God's going to be with you.
Yeah.
And you're going to do fine.
That's good. And that's a message for the congregation too, is encourage these folks. Don't be overcritical. Encourage them. That you never know what that will do. A good word will do. Jim?
Maybe kind of along the similar line that, thank you. People willing to serve. We're in a unique position that we have, many people who are very capable. And I've been at some congregations that it wasn't that way. Yeah. And so just the willingness to serve in that I think is a really good thing, and I think that there's a blessing that comes with that service. That song leading blesses me, and that act, and being up there and getting to hear the congregation sing is just encouraging to me every time. Yeah. And so I'd say that's two things. I'm cheating, I guess. But
no, that's great.
Thank you, and get ready for something really, really great and exciting.
That's awesome. Yeah, Don?
I know on Wednesday nights we've used some of the younger song leaders or the kids in the youth group to lead, and they might have something that they'll have a hiccup on or something like that. Yeah. I know that leading singing, I've never done it perfect at all. Any Sunday, Wednesday that I've ever led, it's never been perfect. And I guess just the encouragement of, hey, yeah, you're going to mess up, but just keep it going.
Yeah.
There's enough of us, I think, in the congregation that'll help you, move it along.
Yeah, and I've heard one of you say that it's not so much. Don't get so caught up in the technicality that you lose something. I mean, I don't think God's worried about us hitting every note. Making sure that we're singing out. You guys do that really well. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this was great. So appreciate y'all. Anything else to add before we sign off? No?
Keep singing.
Keep singing. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember to share the news about the podcast. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Facebook, YouTube. Share what we're doing here, and hopefully you will continue to tune in. If you have questions, you can email me at chris.mccurley@rippleoflight.com. If you have a specific question for anything that one of these guys said, I will make sure that they get it, and I'm sure that they would be willing to respond to you. We just appreciate you so much for tuning in. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. Sincerely, Chris.